the CD pipeline, and Niko is in charge today. Niko, take us away.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever, wherever you are. So welcome to our show about DevOps. And in this show, I will promise you no animals. Was really promising from last time. And also no Elmo, you know, also no Elmo. But what we'll see in this episode, you will learn why Mark cares for underprivileged courses. You will learn how and why Ali moves away from DevOps tools to dives into DevOps agreements. You will learn why Stefan did it the third way. He did it the third way. And one, he wants to see it more prominent. And I vote for silence. That's what I'm here for. And if you think I'm talking in riddles, yeah, you have to listen to the whole episode. So, welcome to DevOps. And before I ask you, what is your challenge, your special moment, your surprise in this dimension? I just want to make clear what DevOps means for us. It's not only DevOps, it's DevSecOps, DevBizOps, Devs everything, DevStarOps. So when we talk about DevOps, it's always Dev and everything around and Ops. So let's start with Ali. Ali, what is your true passion, special moment, surprise, challenge in this dimension?
Well, thanks, Nico. Um, I've had some challenge with this particular dimension. Why? Because
Mhm.
I think with DevOps, I've very often very I fall into the trap that a lot of people fall into, which is the full focus on tooling. And I haven't done that much with tooling, with installing Chef and Puppet and Jenkins and all of that beautiful, fantastic things. However, it took me a while. I was sort of writing a couple of the stories based on the questions that you've prepared for us, Nico. But then I was like, wait a second. Part of DevOps is sort of the agreement that happens whenever Dev and Ops or design and maintenance get together. And those agreements you see in all types of industries. The agreements of well, let's really own this part of a machine, or let's really own this system, and the agreements that you make with certain levels of management, stating, you know what, if we are going to own this system, then it's really ours. We're going to make sure that the thing will be developed and it will run, and we'll be in charge of making it obsolete, or taking it out of scope or out of the air. Um, so what I really liked thinking about this topic is the agreement that happens whenever a team truly takes ownership, which is extremely difficult, of course. But that's sort of the if you ask me about my passion, or something that is also really extremely challenging in this context, I'm gonna zoom in onto just that topic.
Maybe Ali, you're just ahead of your time, because yesterday I talked with people. They've been in the DevOps conference Zurich, which was 2 days ago, and they told me it's swifted away from technology, more to team dynamics, more to coaching, more to social topics. So maybe you're just ahead of time, and it's just a trend.
Finally.
Stefan, you finally, Stefan, your passion, your view on this topic.
Yeah, same passion here. And it leads me back a few years when I did my first Safe DevOps course. And it was a surprise seeing the value stream mapping surfacing this collective ownership that Ali just mentioned, right? It's not about dev and ops. It's about, hey, guys, this is our value stream. We are responsible for it. And I love value stream mapping because, yeah, we probably will talk about that today in detail, what it triggers, what it initiates, and what it kind of surfaces, what we should do and we don't do.
Oh, great. And because we are talking about SPCs Unleashed, Stefan talked about value stream mapping. It's not the same like value stream finding. So please, if you don't know the difference, talk to somebody knowing the difference. So Stefan is talking about the value stream mapping, the process thing, finding bottlenecks and so on, and really an important topic. Mark, your passion about DevOps.
Look, for me, I used to always describe DevOps. I had a classic diagram I'd always draw on the whiteboard. And I'd say, years ago we introduced Agile, and I'd have Agile in the business, and like Agile was about breaking down barriers between the business and the engineering people, and bring them together, one team, one dream. And DevOps was about taking the same barriers that existed and, misunderstanding and past battle wounds and everything that Agile solved between engineering and business, and saying you got to solve this between engineering and ops. Because if you talk to engineering about ops, they'll go, yeah, ops are the people who just don't understand and they make life hard for us. And, it's just ridiculous, the constraints that ops put on us. And then if you talk to any ops people, they'll go, let me roll up my sleeves and show you my scars from all the things those cowboy engineers have done to me. And for me, DevOps was about taking that same barrier that Agile solved between engineering and the business and solving that between engineering and ops. And then I'd add to it and I go, look, lean's the whole thing. But if I've really got a passion, and we'll often talk about the cultural part of DevOps, the passion is you've got to teach your ops people engineering skills and your engineering people the ops mindset if you really want the promise. Because it's a whole new mindset and skill set both ways. And, back in the days when I was coaching DBAs, and I would insist that there was no change to a database that wasn't run through a version controlled script, my DBAs hated me because they're like, but there's tools, I can just click in the GUI. So there's all these things that are native to engineers that you need your ops people to learn. And likewise, you need your engineers to start to think really seriously about what's going to be happening in production. What's the environment this is going to be operating in? How are we going to support it? So it's about toolset, mindset, and cross-education.
Yeah, cool. From passion to surprises to, let me go one further. What is for you core to DevOps? So if you just have to say, can choose only one thing of DevOps. For me, core is, what is, Mark, what is the core of DevOps for you?
Look, the core is actually not thinking about DevOps as being a production thing, but something that begins really early in your life cycle. You've got to start thinking about DevOps right from the beginning. And I see so many organizations think DevOps is automating production deployments. And, to play back to the pre-chat, right? We were talking about Gene Kim, Mr. DevOps on stage at the Safe Summit last week. And he talks about slowification, this idea you've got to, practice, and you've got to practice on the playing field. And your huge returns from so much of your DevOps investment happen during dev, test, sit, pre-prod. The first big enterprise DevOps implementation we ever did, we'd done more than 1,000 deployments in lower level environments before we ever got near a production deployment. So you're going to start at the beginning, not at the end. That's the heart of it for me.
Yeah, cool. Ollie, you're nodding the whole time. So what is your core?
Well, it's I'm gonna tie it back. So I'm gonna tie Mark's, let's say, passion or his choice for what is the core of DevOps to what I just mentioned about collective ownership, or I call it collective ownership. Safe calls it a culture for shared responsibility as part of Calmer. The I don't know how to call it. Is it the mindset, the agreement, the handshake that should happen between people who are doing development, who are deploying to a test environment, who are trying to do that faster, who are involving people that will maintain the system, if that if that requires a different team, sort of the spiel, the game that is happening over there, where teams start taking ownership themselves, and the fight that starts whenever they figure out that, well, there is some kind of a manager that's trying to veto everything, while we are trying to, keep systems alive, up and running. That type of that type of yeah, is it a fight? I don't know. Is it some kind of a struggle? That struggle is in my view at the core of DevOps. I think in the book of Gene Kim and Jez Humble and the rest of the DevOps handbook, they're talking about three different sort of ways of like three different streams. One of them is a stream of knowledge, upstream and downstream, so that also people who have been, just like what Mark just said, uh, um, who have been making adjustments very late in the engineering process. Imagine a DBA trying to fix something in production or in pre-production. That information needs to go back upstream. That
Yeah,
knowledge needs to go back. And how do you do that? Well, you could call people, but that's very, very, ineffective or inefficient. Um, you need to run it through version control so that
yeah,
also for future changes and for other people, it is somewhere, the change has been embedded in a central repository, um, and can be communicated back upstream. So it's somehow at the core of DevOps, it's the difficult, strenuous chit chat that is required to really be able to have end to end ownership for a system or a product.
great. Stefan, now you have a huge buffet. You can choose how to continue. You have heard something about the three ways. You heard something about what is core. You heard from Mark the social part. So choose one to continue the conversation.
I think I will pick up the learning journey, right? It's a learning journey, and it's not just applying structural elements to this, to that, and that's DevOps, like Mark said. It's a learning journey, and the learning journey, and Ali mentioned the DevOps handbook just describes it as the three ways. The first one, establish flow. The second one, establish feedback, what you just said, right? Bring back the knowledge to those steps where it's needed. And finally, I like the third one. It's this continual experimentation. You are going into the danger zone, but it's in a controlled way how you do it. You're learning as a team. You're learning as a team of agile teams. And I like that because that frees you from, oh, we have to do this and that. We have to use these tools, or we have to be very compliant to those steps. It's really the team. It's those who are in it finding out what's the next steps. And yeah, a journey needs a plan, but a plan without steps is zero. That's what I would say when it comes to the core of DevOps.
Cool, thank you. What resonates with me was the calmer approach, and I will put some theory on it because I didn't talk much about what DevOps is in theory, but I think theory is also boring. What resonates with me was the calmer approach, the resilient part. That was really interesting for me. And I remember when I was a developer, this the calmer approach wasn't so omnipresent, and the R of calmer is the recover was always, yeah, please write some database reverse script if something goes wrong. And I thought to myself, if something goes wrong in my first script, why do you believe my second script will function and roll it back?
That's exactly
Was
it.
really one
That's
of
a
my
great
first
one.
thoughts.
That's a great one. That's a great one, Niko.
So I really start thinking about something. Please, hopefully everything goes well because I'm sure my reverse script will not work. So what's a calmer thing? The calmer approach or
Approach.
whatever
Yeah.
is approach. Yeah, is you heard from Ali the culture of shared responsibility is thing. That's the C. The A is for automation of a development pipeline. Many people when I talk about DevOps, they say, yeah, it's a pipeline, the dev pipeline. That's DevOps. yeah, we do DevOps. We have a DevOps team. It's more about that because it's also, yes, it's also about lean flow. That's the L in the Calmer approach. It's measuring of everything, live data. What's the patient in the immersion room doing? It's this data, measure everything, and the recovery. And for recovery, I have one story. I worked for a. Oh, I have to, I have to be careful how I describe it before the audience finds out the company name. Let's say it's a big company. Don't say the industry. And something went really wrong, and it had a huge impact on whole Switzerland. Something didn't work. They had a hot standby, but they never used it for years. A hot standby somewhere else in a different country of Switzerland, with also an internet connection. And something went wrong in the main location, and they just had to switch over. That was their failover. It was so clear. But because they didn't have done it for years, they were just so we cannot switch over. We have no idea if the bandwidth of the internet is big enough. We never did test it, and people told me, yeah, and I'm not sure if all the other things will go up well. And then they thought, okay, let's reboot parts of the things here in this location. So, oh, this router is working since 16 years. If you reboot this, I think it will never come up again. So they were sitting there and trying to fix forward instead having an idea how to recover. So recovery sounds always like we have to spend a lot of money so that everything works. What my team did was something really cool. So I was a DevOps coach then. Safe was in the beginning of the days. And what my team did is whenever they had finished a release, a sprint, they just deployed in the backup environment. And this was then the production for the next sprint. And then the next sprint, they released again in the backup environment and make this production environment. So for them, the failover was part of their release strategy. So whenever they have to fix something, they just put the production in the backup environment and switched. And so switching was normal. So no looking for handbooks. Where is the handbook of switching? I have no idea. Maybe it's dust on it, or I can find it. So, and that was a really cheap way of having resilience in it. So resilient doesn't mean you are Facebook or Google and can do it every second deployments. It also can mean just simple things. Do you have stories about Calmer yourself, Mark, Stefan?
Stefan, why don't you go first?
Yeah, probably it ties into what you said, Niko. When I'm able to facilitate those DevOps workshops, I wouldn't call them courses. It's really a workshop, right? You start with the workshop and you talk about this calmer approach and you ask people, what's your experience, right? What do you think about when it comes to dev and ops? And I'm still amused a little bit how many C's and A's and some else come up of the calmer approach, but it gets really thin when it comes to the M and the R. So measurement and recovery, almost not existent. And I like it in the course because in the course, probably most of the improvements we are talking about come from M and R. And yeah, I'm, you can tell I'm really I'm excited about this workshop, bringing people together, surfacing stuff, making it transparent. And in every location, in every context I was in, I experienced that. And I always bring up the story of my hometown fire brigade, right? These guys, they train 6 times a year in a certain context where it really gets hot. So they ignite fires, they have locations where you can apply your concept in a real scenario. And that's what we are talking about. And these are the stories I really like in real life.
So I just see, Mark, the DevOps training is not underprivileged. It's just unknown by some parts of our SPC family.
So, look,
Mark.
that's a good, and I'd just love to pick up on where Stefan went there. One of the things, it was a bit of a recurring thread for me in Berlin, right? We had that amazing open space on the Sunday where we talked about design thinking and agile. and the synergies between the two. And there was a thread that got me thinking of like, we live in this world of going, every brand wants to own everything, right? Because I personally can't think of design thinking without thinking of Agile, and I can't think about Agile without thinking about design thinking. And there's a question to go, are you doing Agile or are you doing design thinking? Or are you just going to go, I want the best combination of things for my ecosystem? And I think there's a bit of that goes on in the DevOps space. And, you know, it was interesting your comment that the recent DevOps summit had moved away from the technical stuff. It was all culture and all that kind of stuff. Because the DevOps movement quietly went, it's not just about CI/CD, it's about the whole life cycle. And so many people, when you ask the DevOps question in a course, they go, oh, that's a technical thing. That's the dev and the ops folks. But if you actually look at where do you find the heart of value stream mapping and flow in SAFe, you find it under the DevOps article. Right? Where's the best value stream mapping workshop in SAFe? It's the DevOps workshop. Where is, for my money, the best maturity assessment in SAFe? It's the DevOps health radar. Right? It's not something the devs do. It's not something the ops people do. It's something the whole value stream does. And, you know, it begins with continuous exploration, right? Or discovery, as a lot of product people would talk it. It's such an important thing to do, but you have to click through DevOps to get to continuous exploration that all your product managers and product owners should be focusing on. So it's recognizing that thing that says, actually, we've got the whole end-to-end life cycle of value flow that we're trying to optimize. It's sitting there under DevOps in the CI/CD pipeline. And if you go back to Mick Kirsten's keynote, where he got up there and he said, when you look at end-to-end flow, you spend 8% of your lead time in development, right? The rest of it's everywhere else. And all the techniques that SAFe is really highlighting in terms of optimizing value flow and getting that learning loop flowing through the system is sitting in the DevOps article and the DevOps competency. So
may I jump in, Mark?
go
I really
for it,
like
Stefan.
that. I really like that what you said, right? In most of the SAFe courses, I finish with the CDP video. And I say, guys, this is probably the best summary of the last 2 or 3 days you can watch, because it really underlines what you just said. It's not about CI, CD, it's much more. It's all in. If you don't understand what happens here along the SAFe DevOps health radar, you probably don't get what we would like to achieve, getting really there where we talk about business agility.
Oh, that's a great idea. I think we have to put it on the resource material on our Miro board and later on the episode. That's great. Ali, you want to say something? You look like.
Well, the thing is whatever both Stefan and Mark just said completely resonates with me. I must say that out of a lot of the concepts that are provided by SAFe, such as the Calmer approach, probably the Calmer approach is one that I just have focused the least on directly, which is weird because if you really zoom into, as Mark really nicely mentioned just now, it completely encompasses what we're trying to achieve with Agile and SAFe. You know, the ability to understand where we have bottlenecks, the ability to speed up different steps of the entire product generation process, and doing that in a way that is sustainable and uh, uh, let's say all-encompassing in a way. But I've never used Calmer as such. But Calmer, it becomes, if you zoom into it, it becomes sort of an umbrella that you'd understand all kind of practices that you did participate in, that you did try to search answers for, but were not part of a. I mean, as I didn't see it as part of a package that I'm going to install Calmer. I'm going to, spend the next half a year um, rolling out a Calmer approach. There's
But the
so many
newest version,
practices
yeah,
in there. Yeah, have a Calmer 5.0. No, it's
exactly. Yeah,
I've been um, part of a team a long time back developing all types of disaster recovery plans and BCPs, business continuity plans, which was it's nothing new, but the idea is not new. The approach is different. Business
yeah.
continuity plans cannot be documents, as what Stefan just mentioned, or what Niko you mentioned it, I think, documents that collect a layer of dust after a couple of years. That sort of instructions of what to do in a moment of disaster. It's no, actually, disaster should be, I don't know, triggered or investigated very frequent on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. We should figure out how to fix something before it is a disaster.
So,
We call that
so you,
user accent refactoring. Go ahead, Mark.
are you saying you should be calmer in a disaster, Ali?
It's like, yeah, chill down, calm down. Yeah. I
If
think,
you're well
oh, that's
trained.
actually a nice one. No, but I mean, that's something is clicked in my brain. That's what it is. It's if a disaster happens, it shouldn't be a chaos. You should be calm.
Wow.
Or
Now,
Ali,
Okay, I'm
it's
sorry.
showtime.
That's it.
For Ali, it's
Oh my
showtime
god.
that you master it, right? It's showtime as well.
so now
Okay,
it's your
something
fault. I
clicked
have
in
to
my
bring
head.
the monkeys out. I have to bring the chaos monkey. You just made a bridge to those thing. For those who don't know the chaos monkey, the idea of a monkey running around in your IT infrastructure and just shuts down whatever his just fun for. So Netflix started with it, having piece of software destroying other pieces of software. Chaos monkey, calm down. You said, Ali, your passion is disaster. Do you have examples of Chaos Monkey or a disaster plan from your or a story about that?
A very short one, not
Yeah,
necessarily Chaos Monkey example, because I do like the concept of the
yeah,
Chaos Monkey, which is sort of a random outage of a service, and therefore engineering something that's so resilient that it can adjust.
yeah.
Adjustment is built in there. However, yeah, don't really have a very good example there. What I did, I was part of there was also a long time back, was part of a project that required a sort of a, how do you call it? It was two sites. Let me rephrase. This was in the pharmaceutical industry. A lot of physicians, pharmacists are still using faxes, a fax, to receive um, blood data from a laboratory or to
It's
receive
end-to-end encrypted.
patient
Of course they
information.
have.
Sort of, yes. So the fax is, even to this day, it's still being used. So with having a fax as critical infrastructure, you want to make sure that there's no way that a telephone line, or in this case a fax line, is disrupted, and therefore critical information about the health of patients is not being sent over to pharmacists. So we built a sort of how do you call that, like a redundant system where we have different fax servers in different countries, each of them having the ability to send out a fax to physicians and pharmacists, but then having just a digital connection to each of the servers. So
Yeah,
if one phone line would go down for whatever reason, and I'm going to mention BT, British Telecom, what a lousy service that is. All of so often
No
this
product
line just
placement. No product placement, please.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of headache caused by that. But if a line goes down, and a different fax server had to take over, and we built it with a couple of really smart engineers in such a way that even if there was a reduced, like if there would be a lot of traffic on the line, so the line would be busy, it would automatically reroute data, or in this case, a fax via another system.
Cool.
And that system was built 2004, no, 2014, 13, and it still runs. So it's more than 10 years, just completely forgotten about it in a way. It still runs because it has that redundancy and disaster adjustment built into it.
Great. Thank you all. In case my son is watching, fax is a printer with a landline, and landline is this with a cable. Stefan, do you have a story about Chaos Monkey?
I love your teaching for the younger ones watching us. Okay.
I don't want to lose half of our audience.
Yeah, yeah. That's the question I raise in the courses and workshops as well. Okay. Do you know Kodak? Do you know stuff like that, like fax? Okay. So going back.
Ali's younger, is older than he looks. No, sorry, Stefan.
Okay. Going back to Chaos Monkey, and the audience probably has seen that we mention quite often the DevOps handbook, and there's this famous statement or quote in it: breaking things before production. That's probably the only way you can solve or anticipate the problem before Chaos Monkey starts breaking stuff in the production, right? And I only have seen that twice in my career so far. And that goes back to the culture and the mindset. Why could those teams go and break things in production and going into kind of a dangerous zone only because they were supported by management and architecture to push and see how far can we go, how far can we push the limits. So it needs a lot of support. It's guided. It's not, yeah, let's just break something and see what happens. It's again, you need a concept. You need to be aware of what could happen. So for even going into a danger zone is going from one stable condition or context into another one. And I like that. But again, you probably first have to do your chores, right? If you don't have a good flow, if you don't have good feedback, you are probably experimenting without knowing what you try to achieve. And I've learned a lot from these two teams. And these were senior developers. I'm looking to Mark, the type of developer you are for me, right? Where you learn fast, you learn hands-on, and that's how you go forward, and that's how you address Chaos Monkey. And then he might choose you, but you are prepared, and you say, "Come on, mate, let's see what happens."
I think
So,
I'm going to
Mark.
jump on that for a second, right? Because, you put out there in the prep questions, have any of us been in real life near a real Chaos Monkey? And we were all like, no. And it was interesting for me to go, what's the thinking process? And I think Stefan jumped on it, right? Because if you look at Netflix and what they did with the Chaos Monkey, they'd done everything possible to get highly sophisticated engineering and product development practices, right? And they had the sophistication, the full stack CI/CD, the end-to-end flows, the resilient engineering. And then they went, we're not happy to settle here. What else can we do? And I think for us as coaches, I certainly know for me, by the time a client solved all that stuff on the way to production, our job's done. They should be teaching themselves to fish. So we're not still there when they get to the point where they're going, we have everything perfect in everything on the way to prod, and so perfect that the only place left for us to shore things up is to go and build things to attack ourselves in prod. Yeah.
I would like to highlight something Stefan said, which was very important and an eye-opener. DevOps is not something you put at the end on top like a cherry on a dessert. It's something you have to build in. So you need the architecture for that. You need management support for that. So I really loved that the sentence was in this show, because I always see, or I often see people out there. Yeah, we're just doing DevOps. We edit at the end. It's like usability. You do it at the end. You do a usability testing at the end, and then you know that was good. And it's something in the process. You change architecture. Management is important. So thank you, Stefan, for that quote. Was at the moment the quote of the show for me until now. So thank you for that. But when I listen to you guys about how much is in DevOps, and if we go to the development, continuous delivery pipeline, sorry, we have continuous exploration, continuous development, continuous integration. We have release on demand. That's a lot of things we are doing there. And if I hear example like Netflix, they have a bunch of money of doing that stuff. So is DevOps expensive? Is the whole development pipeline, how much does it cost? And how do you explain that it's a value? Mark.
So I think not having good DevOps is a lot more expensive than having DevOps, right?
Exactly.
But not a lot of organizations have good disciplines around their total cost of ownership. And if you did, then you'd very easily justify it. But I think, getting started with it, and let's just say the engineering uplift involved in good CI/CD, it's actually really easy to justify if you just do the work, right? And I mean, I lived it in my engineering days before scaling, when I was actually doing delivery. The first thing we always did was build our CI/CD pipeline. The last thing I did as an actual practicing contributing engineer, we were doing a big data migration from a mainframe and 150 satellite applications into a new target state. And the first thing we did was build a CI/CD pipeline to do the data extract and migration. And we built it 2 years before the planned go live, right? Because it's like, of course, it's the first thing you do. And then I hit enterprise agility, and none of them are anywhere near it, right? I'll never forget the day that an organization I was working with was trying to dive DevOps maturity, and they surveyed all of their vendors to go, where are you at in terms of, DevOps? And they all came back and said, we're great. And they didn't really believe them. So they sent out some actual coaches with technical chops to go and have a look. And they visited one team, and it was from a vendor with 400,000 staff, and there are a few of them, I won't give the name. So they visited them for this particular thing, who had said, yes, we do continuous integration. And they went to see what it was. And the way their continuous integration worked was their developers, none of them had access to the source code repository. Once a week, each developer loaded their source code changes for the week onto a USB stick and handed it to their engineering lead. The engineering lead took all the source code off the USB stick, dumped it into a folder, checked it in, and ran a Jenkins script to do the build. They had continuous integration.
Wow. Once a week with one bottleneck. We've reduced the bottlenecks to one.
No tests. So yeah. But coming back to it, how did you get it started? The area we were coaching in, and this was Australia's first SAFe implementation, and we were the enterprise data warehouse. And we had cost data that said it cost $275,000 to go through a deployment. And that was the documentation, the deployment to integration environments, the integration testing, blah, 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 blah. And we knew it cost $275,000. We had a major program of work where we had an awful lot of planned deployments over the coming 3 years. And we looked at it and we said, okay, if we could get a 10% reduction in the cost of deployment, what would that justify in terms of a business case for funding? And we asked for $1.5 million to run a team for a while to build out CI/CD capability. And that $1.5 million business case was peanuts, right? It was like, from an ROI perspective, it was going to be the best investment they made that year. And then we didn't just get 10%. 18 months later, it didn't cost $275,000 for a release. It cost $8,000 for a release. Right? So
Nice.
how do you get the investment? Pull the dollars together. Right? Actually look at all the costs you've got today, right? Let alone the costs of not having good discipline, but just the costs you've got through deployments. You'll justify an investment real easy.
But that means, Mark, that you have to onboard in this mindset, procurement, financial controllers, those guys who deal with those digits and data, right? Otherwise, it's only a small portion, as you said, of the total cost of ownership that is considered, and that triggers our decisions when it comes to the CDP.
Yep.
Yeah. Stefan, how you care about the money, or how can you help them having this decision? And in case my mom is watching, a memory stick is something like, no, Stefan.
Okay. Let's reduce it to so that your mom is understanding it. Okay. Every system needs some TLC, tender love and care, right? I bought the house.
Oh.
If I think that my initial investment is it, or it's done with that, I'm wrong, right? Every year I have to reinvest. How to keep the lights on. And when it comes to investment, I often use that analogy with senior management. And I also I like one of Marty Kagan's statements. And let me quickly read that one, because I think it's crucial when it comes to the CDP. The deal with engineering goes like this. Product management takes 20% off the capacity right off the top and gives this to engineering to spend as they see fit. That's tender love and care, right? Whatever is required to avoid, we need to stop features to rewrite code. That's built-in quality. If you're in a really bad shape today, technical debt, you might need to make this 30% or more, or even more if of the resources. And then he concludes and he says, I get nervous when I find teams that think they can get away with much less than 20%. My experience when it comes to PM planning, the first stuff we have to plan is maintenance, refactoring, getting rid of technical debt, and then let's talk business. What else can we do? Let's keep the lights on.
Cool. Thank you, Stefan. Have I something missed in this discussion? Because I have to wrap it up somehow to go to the next section of our dialogue. To have missed something, do you have a story to share?
Yeah, I'm going to
great.
jump
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in for a second, and we've already talked about the DevOps course. And
Yep.
when it first came out, I remember when they started developing it, because I had a picture in my head. One of my good friends is a guy called Mirko Herring. He wrote a book on, DevOps in the modern enterprise. He's the global DevOps lead for Accenture. His thing is DevOps and systems of record. How do you do DevOps with Siebel and SAP and all that kind of stuff? And he built this amazing DevOps course that they took all their executives through, or as many as they could, where they literally sit them in a lab, they build pipelines, they deploy product. And when SAFE was developing the DevOps course, I went, cool, how are you going to find SPCs who can teach that, right? Because that to me was the art of bringing it to life. And they went, oh, no, there's going to be no code. And I went, you've got to be joking, right? How are we building a DevOps course where people aren't actually going to do anything technical? And Mark Ricks was like, trust me, dude. All right, I'll trust you. And then I looked at it and I went, oh my God, this is amazing, right? It's the most powerful course, taking you through the whole value stream map, the thinking of value streams, step by step through 16 stages of that map. What does great look like, and where are you today, and where are your opportunities, and how you're actually really going to set up for flow metrics to baseline where you are and then measure the impact of your changes. It's phenomenal. And almost nobody uses it. And I remember back in 2019 when I did a whole bunch of research visits to big implementations around the world. And, it was still fairly fresh then. And so one of the first things I'd do would be go, where are you at with your DevOps journey? Are you using the DevOps health radar? Are you using the DevOps course? No. It's all the techie stuff. It's like, oh man, you are so missing out. And where I love it is to run it for an art. And what you do is you take all the leadership team of your art, you take your product managers, your architects, your RTE, you take some scrum masters and product owners, you bring some people from your system team, and then you also bring in some of your compliance leads, right? You bring in security reps, data governance reps, and it is more like a workshop than a course, because what it does is it says, here's all the reasons we go slow. Here's all the gaps in our value stream. And you walk out at the end of that course knowing where you are and having a really solid plan of action that's cross-functional across that whole group in terms of where you might go and why you might go there. So that's my plug.
Yeah, great. Well, listening to you, Mark, I think SPCs should try to find a way that management stays on DevOps, because when I remember my other trainings, they just want to skip it. So, DevOps chapter 4.6 in leading safe. Let's go over it. It's a techie thing. I don't care for it. So I think we have a job there. Maybe it's a coffee club discussion. How can we put more focus on the DevOps training, which is a workshop? Great, thank you. The next part we are going with our stream is measure and grow. And usually when the moderator repairs something, you just go to measure and grow. You open the core competency. In our case, it's Agile Product Delivery. You go to the section of your dimension, and then you're surprised there's no dimension DevOps. So, okay, now I have to do measure and grow, and there's no DevOps dimension. And then we have a whole DevOps assessment for its own. And what I did is I took in preparation the DevOps assessment with the 4 sections: continuous exploration, continuous integration, continuous development, deployment, and release on demand, and the 4 subsections, and put it all on our Miro board. And I had to go, I think, in such a font size that you have the whole assessment. And the question is, which of all these topics are the most important ones for you? And let's start with Ollie. What have you chosen?
Oh, well, we've been doing these kind of activities already for quite a while. This was by far the most difficult one. Why? Because the list is so huge. I mean, if you need to select one, I already saw that a couple of us we selected 2. I'm one of them. If you need to measure anything, then what I would do is measure or look at the ability to deploy and the ability to verify, which is, are you able to deploy quickly, fast, without any boundary, without any issues? And can you deploy yourself, or do you need signatures from 15 other people? And do you have the ability to verify whether things work, whether therefore integration has worked? So sort of that's what I would look at. It's sort of the whole rationale behind the system demo, right? That we have. It's in a way you're forcing a train to integrate and to look at the integrated result. So keeping that in mind, that's why if I would have to choose, I would look at the continuous deployment part and therefore the ability to deploy and verify.
Great, thank you. Stefan, why are yours better than Ali's? You've chosen something different.
It's not better. I really had a journey in my brain, starting with putting my sticky in the aspect of release on demand, where it comes to measure and learn. And then I slowly moved up. Going backwards through the CDP, and I ended up with continuous exploration. And I put it in between collaborate and research and architect. What's the narrative behind it for me? if you can think it, start as early as possible to think about it, to improve, that you are then kind of prepared for continuous integration and continuous deployment, right? So this time I took the other approach, not to wait until it comes to learning. How would I go to anticipation as early as possible? But I'm aware, and I'm keen to listen to Mark why he put his one into the aspect of continuous integration.
Mark.
This one just was not fair having to pick. Right. And it comes back to that, the
Right.
surface area of this particular dimension is so big, right? It's the whole value stream.
Yeah.
And I looked at you guys and what you chose. And I go, yeah, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. And then I went, you know what? I'm just going to be a limited ex-technical guy, and I'm going to focus on something technical, right? And I don't know that in picking this, I would say it's a better choice than anybody else has made, because I so agree with your rationale, Stefan. I agree with yours, Ali. But I started to think about what's going to tell you you've started moving. And to me, if you haven't got continuous integration, you're never going to get all the rest of it, right? That's where the habits start to build. And continuous integration, well, what is that? It's somebody checks in, there's a server, it runs a comprehensive set of unit tests, and if they all pass, it deploys to a full integration environment and runs a comprehensive set of integration tests, and then it says go, right? You've got to do the infrastructure configuration, you've got to solve for so many of your core problems in there. And if you're Amazon,
you just need a couple of USB sticks and one person doing
yeah,
all
well,
that once a week,
this,
right?
this is true, right? But it's, if you're Amazon and you're deploying thousands of times an hour, this is probably not the thing. But if you're most of the big enterprises that we tend to work with, where releasing more often than once every 6 months is kind of your first goal, then you should be doing hundreds of integration, deployment, and test cycles for every one deployment and test cycle. All right. So your learning space, your risk threshold, and the beginning of your cultural change of starting to go, actually, it's both dev and ops, because it's our environments, it's our tests, it's our code, right? Because the heart of it is never hearing again, it worked on my machine. That's what continuous integration gets you. So for me, that's how you start.
Perfect. So I myself, you can have me in two flavors. In the Greek flavor, this is dancing with the system, and in the Swiss flavor, obeying the rules. So this means one sticky. This is Swiss version, and the Greek version is find a way to cheat. I thought making my sticky so big that it fits everywhere, and so it's one sticky, it fits everywhere. When I went through the list, I thought to myself, oh, something is missing. Resilience is missing. Then I realized, oh, it's in stabilized. Okay, I take stabilized. But then I thought, what are struggling the most people who come from a technical environment and doing DevOps? They're struggling with building hypotheses. So if you're not able to building great hypothesis, to test this hypothesis, to slice, you're also doomed. The same as Mark is saying, if you're not able to do a continuous integration, you're also doomed. So I started just with the first, not because I was lazy to read, but because I thought, yeah, we are really lacking in the skills of writing great hypothesis and knowing what hypothesis is. And that's why I put my sticky there.
So if
thank you guys. Yep.
Can I just want to add something there, right? And this comes back to this thread we've been running about. It's a culture, and it's not just a technical thing. Because if you looked at where everybody focused, right? Stefan and Niko, you both focused really in product management architecture, right? Shaping the things you're going to do. And then I went, actually, I'm going to worry about engineering and ops during development. And then Ali went, I'm going to worry about ops and engineering at deployment time.
Yep.
And between us in our trying to pick one thing, we actually wound up picking things that appeal to every discipline. And 2 out of the 4 of us voted for stuff that is driven by business and product management.
Nice observation. Yeah, I think this could also be 4 episodes because each section of the wheel of DevOps is really interesting. So again, when we started preparing, I thought, oh, DevOps would be a fast one, and now we are not running out of time, but we are closely of running out of time. I would like to finish with just one sentence. If you have to describe this dimension of this core competency, what would this sentence be? Whoever is fast first.
Let me do that. Very, very simple. DevOps is much more than just a bunch of tools with cool names. And I think it requires a marketing overhaul. Because people, whenever they hear DevOps, it's still, oh yeah, nice. Chef and Puppet and Jenkins pipelines and automated testing and cool tools. It is way more than that. So I don't know how to call it, but it requires a marketing overhaul.
Great.
Which
I will
leads
check
me
the subtitles. It's a one sentence. Sorry, yeah, Stefan.
Okay. Which only leads me back to it's a people business, right? So principle number 2, systems thinking, and I read that sentence somewhere. Test whether developers qualify for IT operations resources. Can they cover the whole value stream by thinking first before they do the stuff?
Oh, I like it, Stefan. In my case, it's not only about people, it's a team sport. So DevOps is a team sport, and it brings resilience to you and your products. Mark, you have the final words.
I'm just going back into Geekland. If you haven't got true continuous integration, you'll never, ever get reliable, resilient, continuous deployment.
Great.
It sounds like a
So
line in a
thank you.
song. Never got
Really?
to see ya. You never get to see. Sorry.
It's
That
okay,
means
Mark.
only
It's
the
okay.
next episode has to be sung. Okay, so guys,
You were
get
talking
prepared.
about TLC. I was hearing, no, I don't want no scrubs, and it's just it, the entire episode. Okay, sorry.
So
I'll just keep my mouth shut.
if you want to hear more songs and more movie quotes and so on, stay for the retro. Before we go to the retro and before we're closing out, that's Mark's job. I want to remind you on the next episode, and the next episode is going back to the 80s. We bring the first episodes again. We redo the first episodes with the new format. So yeah, and I forgot what the next one is. I prepared it, but it was so fun that everything is now out of my brain. Let me take a look what the next one is, and meanwhile, please the others look pretty.
Let me save you looking, Niko, because
Thank you.
I looked ahead and went, oh, we should have pre-planned to talk about that. We are back to lean thinking people and agile teams. So in the fun, laughter, storytelling and battle scars mode, as opposed to the here's a long list of books you should read mode we did it the first time.
Yeah.
Perfect. So see you in a week.
All right. So for those who like to hang around on the live stream for the retro, we shall move into retro mode, and I will share screen while we are here.
So Ali, you have to sing, and Elmo will dance. No singing.
No,
Okay,
let's
no
not
dancing.
do that. No, let's not do that because there's a recording over here. Everything that I say or every noise that I make will be held against me. Can and will be held against me.
Nobody can take the tea away from you. So do whatever you want. So I have to restart my Miro board because it's frozen. I'll be soon back.
Mhm.
It's frozen when your heart's not broken. Ooh.
See, that's it. You're just this entire episode, and there were more moments where it's just laced with song references or potential song references. And now all of a sudden Madonna comes up. Nice.
In one of the first episodes, I once asked if this core competency would be a song, which one would it be? And it was great to have lyrics from Mark. So sometimes songs helps. So hey, here I am, and still I'm not able to write. I'm wait. Oh, there.
You are struggling with your mouse, young Niko. Maybe you better get
I'm
your
it.
son in to show you what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, I'm in an age where I need the help of my kids to do things. Yeah, I'm feeling old sometimes. It's
Oh, come on,
it's
Niko.
really great to see how fast they are. I always thought I'm fast, and then they are doing something on a laptop or on a game or whatever, and I realized I'm really slow, and I thought I'm fast. Oh.
You're lucky. You're lucky. You got some helpers. Mine have left the house, right? I'm on my
Yeah.
own.
They will bring me soup in 10 years. And that can you rewrite your will, please? Because I brought you soup. No.
You'll be considered.
Oh. You'll be considered. Yeah. So I realized what I can do in the next show is put some advertising on out of the window here, and this time the advertising would be the DevOps training. So, like a
Alrighty. How many minutes do we still need?
I didn't put a time box on, and then everything got thrown out because Niko was struggling with the technology.
Yeah.
I'm well and truly done. I'm just waiting till you guys are.
Yeah,
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is there, but I want to write. I can stop. I can just say bingo after everything you say. I finished.
Then let's run through it. So starting and keep doing. The only post that I had to write was this. I really like the change. That new system of we give you some stories, you rethink your prompts, you get a chance to react to our stories and then figure out how you're going to run it. I thought it was great. So I had nothing else.
Yeah, worked very well. And also the prep with the ABC thingy that you did.
Yeah.
It just and you followed it. Also important.
Not really, but it helped me.
No,
yeah,
well,
have a line.
You
Exactly.
mostly followed it, and it made it really easy to know where you're about to go. I know I followed the way you'd marked it up and went, that was really helpful for me because I know when the ball's about to go in a particular direction.
Yeah.
And I also think that allowed us to have more proactive handovers, right? Not waiting for Niko, just jumping in, picking up the thread. And by the way, good time management. I liked it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I really love this proactive thinking of yours that you said, "Hey, I can add something," because I wasn't aware that was my structure, but I realized that things I wanted to hand over, you did it yourself, and I really love that. To just taking, so hey, I can add something to that, And it's wow, yeah, cool. That was great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was excellent. So my takeaway is next time I'm moderating, copy the way you prepared and indicated the flow you wanted to take, because we've been working so hard on direct passes rather than needing it always to go backwards and forwards. And I think the way that you visualized what the intent was just gave us that freedom to jump and roll.
Okay, so it helped you too, not only me. Okay, great.
Oh yeah, helped us heaps.
Even as a Swiss, we know how to cheat a script.
Yeah. That's cool. I can choose what I am. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, you're the moderator.
So let's go to more doing. Stories related
Yeah.
to Lean Agile mindset. Stefan, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, and I probably will then also jump to start doing. We are now after a certain number of episodes, and we start jumping back. And I think the Lean Agile mindset is popping up in almost every episode. So
Yeah.
maybe some other relations to this Lean Agile mindset or certain episodes. Maybe we start thinking about small evolution of the format the closer we come to the end of the 21 episodes. That's something that lingers around in my mind at the moment.
Yeah.
So do you mean, just to clarify, do you mean sort of that we try to relate our stories, or trying to every now and then make a bridge to another episode, Stefan?
We are already doing it, right? If
Yeah,
I'm listening to you guys, we jump back. Or today, what was quite quite clear is that this DevOps is much more than what we think. So it's like an umbrella over certain stuff, and maybe we could at the end of the series or in the middle of the series we could come up with a pit stop that shows, okay, 21 dimensions. How could one group that based on different perspectives? And Mark brought it up, like there's more the PM architect perspective, there's more the development aspect, but in the end, the overall goal is still business agility, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah, good idea.
structure and probably sum up at the end of 21
Yeah.
episodes.
All right. Niko, you've been madly adding a post-it. Refer to SPC's job and Unleashed.
Exactly. When I prepared it, I realized cool stories, but which of them help SPCs to unleash? And that's the motto of us. And so I tried to bring it back again. I think it's fun, but if our job is to make better SPCs, I think this time was good. But sometimes I feel that we forget what was our initial idea is making a better community of SPCs. So just as more doing that we have in mind, if we prepare stories, it's also bringing SPCs forwards. We had some of us was okay, but I'm afraid that we can lose the path.
You just triggered something for me.
Okay. A new
More
show.
post-its are coming.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Data.
So
Dum dum dum.
use the flexibility to maintain the time box was also in more doing.
Yes, I
which
wrote that one. And we so really nicely in the time box. It was an hour, and within the hour we were done. So I think we need to do that more. Let me rephrase. Whatever that has been done today, I think we moved around a little bit with respect to which stories to share, which stories not to share, which question to ask, and when to ask them, which is really good. and it made sure, I think, it really contributed in staying within the time box.
All right. What do we got? Start doing. I assume this is Niko, at least somewhere in one of the next shows, to embed if a competency would be a song or a dimension would be an animal.
No, it's on me.
Oh
it's
no,
on
that
me.
was me.
Oh, it's you,
That
Ali.
is sorry. Yeah, for some reason I'm a visitor today. I'm just a visitor.
You're obviously not logged into Miro.
Indeed, I guess something went wrong there. No, I like the slightly informal, alternative way of looking at things. So maybe the next, the next episode that I'll be preparing, I'll try to blend that in.
Cool. I'm going to jump on the start doing, and the post-it that I just added was customer research. So we enjoy this. I've heard from a couple of people who are not our target audience that they think the new format's great. But if I look at the number of people watching and listening, it's not really changing. And this was triggered by your, is it really unleashing SPCs question? Is, we all think we're sharing wisdom. And the main people I talk to who watch our stuff or listen to our stuff are people I've coached. And they just go, cool, it's free time from Mark. Right? But I guess the challenge that I lay out to everybody, and I know I've got one RTA in my head, and maybe you guys could start to think, right? Go and find an SPC, the kind of SPC that we're trying to unleash. Have a chat to them and go, what happens for you when you listen to the show? What feedback would you have for us about how it might help you more effectively unleash yourself? And let's actually get some field input to
Sounds good.
Guide the next set of tweaks.
So that's a to-do.
That's a to-do.
Yep.
In fact, I'm going to jump it out there as a special color. We'll go purple for special. All right, now I'm going to take us off the air and then do a couple of logistics.